Lilo and Stitch, Disney's weird little 2002 release. A beloved offbeat gem about grief, found family, aliens, and tuna sandwiches. It was a strange one looking back at Disney's catalog of retold fairy tales, myths, and stories, but it was heartfelt, it was quirky, it was soulful, it was mine. Lilo and Stitch was one of the first Disney films I remember seeing trailers for. My family's collection of classic Disney films on VHS would have the old trailers for Lilo and Stitch play, where Stitch interrupted classic Disney moments, and it was hilarious and different, and I loved it dearly. And now, in the grand tradition of Disney honoring the legacy of their 2D animated films, they're giving Lilo and Stitch the iconic treatment of turning it into a soulless, uncanny valley remake that nobody asked for. Live action remake count? I've lost track. But here's the thing that gets me most about this film. I don't think this remake is just another lazy cash grab. It is a cash grab, but it's not just that. Disney is panicking, I think. They're desperate. Their live action films haven't been doing too well, and their recent animated releases are also struggling to recapture that old Disney magic. I think Disney is looking at this little blue alien and saying, you better work your magic just like you used to. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about why Lilo and Stitch was an odd lightning in a bottle, and why trying to recapture that spark to save them might make the fires burning at Disney Studios even worse.
Wow, San Francisco.
Lilo and Stitch was an odd blip during a strange time for Disney animation. After riding the 90s era renaissance, Disney started releasing more experimental films. Instead of the Broadway-style musical numbers and familiar European fairy tales, Disney began to branch out into new ideas, fewer songs, and this wild new thing called CGI animation. Not all of the movies released during these years were flops, though. The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis the Lost Empire, and Treasure Planet are beloved classics today, even if their box office numbers didn't show it at the time. Even their later fully CGI films like Bolt and Meet the Robinsons, while they might look a little odd by today's standards, have heartfelt stories that have earned them a place in many people's hearts. But Lilo and Stitch stood out. It wasn't a sweeping fantasy or a grand sci-fi adventure like the others. Instead, the film is grounded in a very real place, Hawaii, and tells the story of two sisters, Lilo and Nani, as they navigate the loss of their parents. Things get even more chaotic when they adopt what seems to be a weird little dog, but that dog is actually Experiment 626, named Stitch, a hyper-destructive alien experiment who crash lands on Earth while escaping space authorities. And yet, over the course of the film, something miraculous happens. Stitch, built for chaos, begins to understand love. Through Lilo and Nani, he finds something he never thought possible: Ohana.
Ohana means family. Family means nobody
gets left behind
or forgotten.
But as the film explains, it goes beyond just blood. Unlike the Western, often nuclear view of family, the Hawaiian concept of ohana is rooted in community. Aunties, uncles, neighbors, friends, they all count. It's about love and connection, not just biology. This theme of found family is one of the reasons Lilo and Stitch remains so powerful. It speaks to anyone who has had to rebuild their world and who has found love and support in unexpected places. And of course, there's Stitch himself. Alright, let's be honest, he's adorable.
Oh, so cute and fluffy!
It's like he was scientifically engineered to push every cute animal button. The big eyes, stubby legs, weirdly huggable proportions. He's part dog, part cat, part koala, part gremlin, and all mischief. Add in his grumbly voice and slapstick antics, and you've got a character who's both funny and incredibly marketable. Which is why, of course, Disney has turned Stitch into a merchandising machine. I can't lie, I've bought a Stitch plush or two in my day. He's become such an icon that I'd argue he's a secondary mascot for Disney now. Kind of like how Eevee plays second to Pikachu in Pokemon. So is it really surprising that Lilo and Stitch is now being pulled into the live-action remake pipeline?
No.
Disney's live-action remakes have been a larger part of a shift within our modern storytelling. Disney isn't the only one doing this, side-eyeing you, DreamWorks, but they're by far the ones who started it and the ones who keep doing it. Of course, Disney had done a few live-action remakes before this trend really became a thing. A live-action The Jungle Book was released in the 90s, and live-action films of 101 and 102 Dalmatians came out in 1996 and 2000 respectively, but they weren't really big enough to kick off this trend. The real remake wave started with the 2010 release of Alice in Wonderland, directed by Tim Burton. It's an odd film, not just because of the Burton flair, but it kind of reeks of the late 2000s, early 2010s YA book vibes, which was fun at the time, but looking back, it's just kind of meh. But hey, fair enough. It was just an experiment, right? It's not like we were gonna get more of these. 26? Yeah, it's a bit of a problem now. They're not all bad films. I haven't seen every single one, but the ones I have seen, they're not the worst. Cinderella stands out to me as decent. Kenneth Branagh basically just turned it into a more accurate period piece than anything else. Some of the remakes are also less of a direct adaptation and more alternate takes. Maleficent in 2014 looks at the story from her point of view, and Cruella 2021 does something similar with the villain of 101 Dalmatians. So, okay, a few points for retelling familiar stories from new angles. It's not all completely remakes. And I'll give Snow White a decent score too, not just to make that anti-SJW crowd mad, but because it's an okay film, all things considered. Gal Gadot's performance was the weakest part for me, but for the most part, let's be real, these films are just cash grabs. They're banking on the nostalgia of Disney adults to rake in more money. And sure, a corporation's gotta make money, capitalism doesn't exactly encourage innovation, but at least Disney is still making good animated films, right? Right?
No.
But Disney isn't making magic anymore. They're making nostalgia slop. Easily digestible content that can get dropped on Disney Plus if it doesn't do well in theaters. And they're leaning heavily on an underpaid, often non-unionized VFX workforce to carry the weight, especially on these live-action remakes. Disney needs something, anything to recapture the magic. And with how beloved Stitch is, why not just roll the dice and use him as the symbol to try again? People love Stitch. Disney loves money. I'm not surprised that the corporation went to remake probably one of their most relevant releases as soon as they could. As I'm writing this script, the early reviews of this film have actually been positive so far. People think it might be the best live-action remake Disney has ever made, but I don't trust reviews until I see the film myself. And by the looks of it, when I'll actually probably end up uploading this video, I'm going to hold off and probably do a separate review of this film to see if Disney did end up actually saving itself. I mean, from what they've released so far, the film does look okay at the very least, but it's not perfect. Let's start with the casting. Sydney Agudong has been cast as Nani, and while she is a person of color, she's Filipino on her father's side, I believe. She isn't native Hawaiian, and Nani's identity as a native Hawaiian woman isn't just some surface detail, it's central to her story. Her struggles, her responsibilities, her relationship with the world around her, they're all shaped by that identity. And there's been some talk that Sydney may have claimed to be ethnically Hawaiian, but I couldn't find a verified source. And even if she did, there is an important distinction there to be made. Being ethnically Hawaiian and being native Hawaiian are not the same thing, from my basic research. This casting choice just doesn't seem right. It continues a long history of erasure, especially in a story that's so grounded in a specific culture and place. Originally, they also cast Jolene Purdy as Mrs. Kakoa, a brand new character created to replace Cobra Bubbles. Yes, that Cobra Bubbles, the memorable, slightly intimidating social worker who symbolized the real threat of CPS coming in to separate Lilo and Nani. Fortunately, the studio eventually reversed course, and Courtney B. Vance is now playing Cobra Bubbles. But that switch still raises eyebrows. Why rewrite the story to remove one of the few prominent black characters in the original film? Why swap him out at all? That's what's frustrating about remakes like this. If it's meant to be a remake, why not remake it? Why rewrite the foundational parts of the story and sideline the diversity that was already there? One of the reasons why I love Lilo and Stitch so much is because it's still representative of a time where Disney chose diversity, not just to get diversity points, but because it was still something natural. And while I'm sure Jolene Purdy would have done great in her role, it still doesn't sit right with me that they do this to a beloved character. There's also the Pleakley situation. When the trailer for the remake came out, people were quick to notice something about the alien character Pleakley, one of the antagonists of the films that works with Jumba to recapture Stitch to take him back to space. In the original animated film, Pleakley disguises himself in drag, basically, a wig, makeup, and a dress. But in the remake, nothing. No dress, no makeup, just a human person. A watered down version of the character. Because apparently letting a weird little alien dress however he wants is now considered not consumer friendly, even though it was fine in the 2000s. It's yet another example of how Disney seems to do diversity only when it's easy and profitable, not when it actually means something. I can at least give the director, Dean Fleischer Camp, kudos for trying. It wasn't his decision, it was the higher ups. When you're making a film under the Disney umbrella, you only have so much control. control. And that brings me to the bigger picture, the watering down of Lilo and Stitch. This happens a lot in the way Disney markets the franchise. Look at any promotional material and you'll see Stitch everywhere. He's on the merch, he's the face of every poster, he's every toy, and yes, he's adorable and chaotic and fun. It's frustrating to see how often the emotional core of the story of Lilo and Nani, is sidelined in favor of a marketable alien. This even happened with the original. There's a famously deleted scene that called out the exploitation of Hawaiian land for tourism, a moment that was cut from the final film, probably because it felt too real for a children's movie, but that's exactly why it should have stayed, because it is real. It's the truth. Native Hawaiians are often priced out of their homes and ancestral lands so resorts can build massive beachfront hotels. People move in from the mainland, gentrify neighborhoods, and push the locals out. That's the world that Nani and Lilo live in. Nani working at a resort as a waitress isn't just a character details, it's a quiet nod to the economic realities so many Native Hawaiians face. Cobra Bubbles, too, is a subtle symbol of this. He's not native, and he's not quite a villain. He's a government agent, a reminder of the state's power to tear families apart. He's stoic, even cold, but he's not cruel. His presence embodies that quiet tension, the fear of separation, the threat of institutional control. But instead of leaning into those themes, deeply personal, political, and cultural layers, Disney tends to sand off the edges. It smooths things over for easier international marketing. More money, less meaning. That's what worries me about this remake. That instead of embracing what made the original special, its honesty, its specificity, its messiness, it'll chase the safest version of itself, one that makes for good merchandise, but forgets the heart of what it's supposed to be. Stitch once represented something great. Proof that stories Disney tells can still resonate even when they get strange, scrappy, and weird. Stories with hearts that still matter. But in my opinion, Disney's lost their magic touch over the last decade. Sure, there's been bright spots, Encanto comes to mind, but those moments are getting fewer and farther between. Maybe Moana was the last time it truly felt magical. And isn't that just kind of sad that this corporation built on the magic of storytelling is just releasing all this slop? I'll probably still end up watching the live action Lilo and Stitch, if only to say I gave it a chance, but I don't expect it to be the same. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Stitch can save them again, but only if they remember what made us fall in love with him and his ohana in the first place. Thank you all for watching this quick little video, and yeah, keep your head in the clouds.